This presentation is part of the Coach to Coach series that was born or evolved from 2017 when Oklahoma Coaches Association and the Oklahoma Secondary Schools Activity Association boards got together and agreed upon an idea or a concept, which was at that particular time we were losing, and still are, losing coaches for lots of different reasons. And we're trying to be proactive somewhat in that particular area. So this coach-to-coach thing was board. The OCA board gave its blessing, and we've had sessions here at the clinic since 2017. Obviously didn't have anything last year, but then the OSSA board got involved in promoting that. We'll talk a little bit about that in maybe just a second. We had a session yesterday and went through some things, and I'm not going to go back through those things, but we will refer to them just a little bit here in just a second. But I was trying to come up with some kind of idea about what to call this deal. And, part of this for some of you older heads is going, now here's the deal. I spent all this time trying to think of this really neat way to get started. And I love this picture of this guy, Captain Obvious. I don't know if you've seen Captain Obvious on TV or not. He's in some commercial presentation for some outfit. But anyway, he's there to overstate the obvious, okay? The reason I like the guys, I love the jacket. If I could get away with wearing the jacket every day, I would wear the jacket every day. But I love the jacket. The other part is, and it's maybe a little tough to see there in red. I put the slides together, so that's why it's not very good. But the part in red underneath there, that's in smaller print that you can't read, says affirmation of what you are doing. So if these things seem obvious to you, then maybe take this as a presentation that just reaffirms that you're doing some of the right things. The other thing was, 57 minutes of my life I can't get back, but you are going to get a free OSSA pass here in a second. So, hang in there. It'll be good. It isn't going to go 57 minutes. That's my brother's number in college, so I had to work that in the presentation somehow, some way. So that's what it is. Probably it's more about this, okay? We have a 15-person staff at the OSSAA. We have 7 directors. Of the 7 directors that we have, 6 of us were in the seats where you're sitting. We were all coaches. Our director, the only person on our director staff that wasn't a coach is our fine arts guy, and his brother was a high school football coach, and he spent every Friday night videoing Friday night football. So we kind of consider him to be a coach anyway. And he's gone through a bunch of the same kind of stuff. But these are things that we've talked about as a staff, that we shared with the OCA staff. They thought were things that were kind of important. I saw this the other day. I had not seen it. Maybe some of you are familiar with the once in a million coach or 1 in a million coach. Let's watch this real quick. It's a nonprofit that's out there trying to promote coaching, and it really has some good stuff in it.
My coach is strong.
My coach is a mentor.
My coach is a teacher.
My coach is a believer.
She is my superhero.
Big sister.
Morale booster.
Life changer.
Inspiration.
Confidence builder.
Motivational.
My coach is my idol.
My coach is my role model.
She's became like a mom to me. She calls herself my mom.
He's not just a coach. He's like another dad of mine.
So I think you can Google that up, the millioncoaches.org or something. I didn't look at it extensively. It's a program where they're promoting coaches development, and primarily probably in ages before they get to us, sometimes in high school, but junior high. But anyway, it's a very good resource on some coaching things. I'm standing here in front of you today because of my coach. I wanted to be like my coach. Now, that proved to be maybe an error in judgment, but I was fortunate to have some really good coaches in junior high, some great coaches in high school. All I wanted to do was be like them. That's the whole reason I did what I did. That's the whole reason I do what I do now, is that I still want to hand forward to the next group of folks the things about the game and what I got out of the game. I don't care which game we're talking about. We'll go through that here in just a second. But there are the opportunities that we have as coaches that nobody else has. We have the greatest, I say we, I haven't coached in 13 years. We have the greatest platform that there is to speak to kids about life and how life works and how life doesn't work. If you think, and this program, or what we're talking about today, was set up for two different groups. One, hopefully we could get a hold of the young coaches. You know, we talked about some things yesterday that cause young coaches to get out of the game quickly. You know, we talked about you got to manage your finances. You got to figure out early on, you got to have a plan for your finances. That chases more coaches out than anything else. The second thing is you got to acknowledge, or another thing, you got to acknowledge the fact that what are you doing to your family? You know, I was fortunate enough the other night, Saturday night, to come to the OCA Hall of Fame induction, and they inducted 10 different individuals. In every one of the descriptors, the first group that person wanted to thank was their family. You know, I got into coaching, and I didn't make that consideration. You know, I told this lady I was going to be a coach, and she played high school basketball. She knew what a coach kind of did, sort of maybe, but she didn't know that football coaches or basketball coaches, Coach Glover, or baseball coaches, she didn't see the other time part of that. And so we had some real interesting discussions in year one. Carried over to year two, made it to year three, and 46 years later, it's still going, okay? We still have those discussions, don't get me wrong. But your family goes through a lot of sacrifice for you to do what you're doing. And then you better have some kind of belief in a higher being. Because if you think you're going to get everything, that everything's going to work for you here, and there's not going to be any self-doubt occasionally, then I need to talk with you later because you haven't lost a game yet. And that's going to happen. And we talked about, taking care of ourselves and doing those kind of things, mental health-wise and physical health-wise. Did we not get that from the COVID if we didn't get anything else? Oh my gosh, 18 months. We'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, those are the things that chase young coaches out. But the other group that this is targeted towards is those folks that are helping the young coaches. I'm also here today because there was a guy at Charles Page High School in Sand Springs, Oklahoma, who took me under his wing and said, now, you think you know coaching? Let me try to explain coaching to you. And then I was very fortunate that when I walked up into the building, into that first teaching opportunity, that there was a lady across the hallway that says, oh, you may know a little math. Maybe you even know a lot of math, but you don't have any classroom management skills, and they will kill you the first week. You are one dead teacher. I said, no, wait a second. I said, but, look at my schedule. And I had the greatest schedule when I first started. I was teaching 5 hours. For some of you that heard this yesterday, I apologize. I taught 5 hours math, 3 hours of applied mathematics. And I'm thinking, oh my, this is good stuff. And then 2 hours of fundamental mathematics. I thought, man, this is even better. I mean, I'm getting the core. I'm getting to teach core stuff. So I asked this lady across the hall. I said, I'm not familiar with applied math. What is that? She said they had to flunk one class of math to get into that room. I said, okay. So I'm teaching all kids in those 3 sections that have flunked one math class. And then it should have dawned on me, but I asked the question anyway. So what about these fundamental kids? Oh, they flunked 2. So I spent all day long, and I was supposed to be their math messiah. All of a sudden, I was supposed to deliver. If I hadn't had her across the hallway to teach me how to manage my classroom, are we mentoring the young ones? Are we? There is that deal that my grandfather used too. I don't know how to swim, Pops. Oh, here, I'll teach you. What happens? Down to the water and what? In. Yeah, exactly. High success rate, not a lot of really good feeling about swimming, but a high success rate. So those were some of the things we talked about there yesterday. There we go. Again, this is a little recap of why we're here, talking about the young coaches, talking about the mentors. Here's one of the things that I certainly am a firm believer in, and if you're operating in this mindset, I would certainly ask you to take a second and back up and take a relook at what you're doing. Coaching, teaching, I don't care what it is you're doing, what sport, doesn't make any difference. It was never designed to be a solo event. It's not supposed to be just you. It's not supposed to be just you in the classroom. It's not supposed to be just you coaching. You know, you're supposed to draw from resources. You're supposed to get support. There's supposed to be people helping you. It's not you having to figure it out each time by yourself. And I have to tell you, because I was raised by, and I'll show you here in a second, I was raised by a United States Marine. We don't ask for help. We do what we need to do. We learn on our own. No. We got to ask for help sometimes. If we didn't get anything out of the COVID, we should have got that. Either you're a mentor or you're a mentee. I'm 64 years old, and I'm still both. There are gentlemen in my life, primarily in my church right now, who are my mentors, who I will not do anything serious in life without running it past them first. Now, of course, my mentor passed away several years ago, and I ran everything past him. Of course, he had a very opinionated opinion about what I was doing, but I'll show you his picture in a second. So we talked a little yesterday about this, and I know some of you who are very good math people, you're thinking, oh, good, we're going to get to do some equations and stuff like that. No, this is the bell curve. This is the normal curve. And I know a lot of you that are in not math majors, you know this thing. You don't know that you know it, but you know it. This is another Captain Obvious point, which is this is what's called a normal distribution, which means in any given grouping of any given variable, the variable will group itself normally, right? So if we were talking about height, and we took everybody in this room, and we measured them, we would have some pretty tall ones, we would have some pretty short ones, okay? But most of us would be where? Average. Well, the biggest line there in the middle is average, okay? Now, that's your kids also. Your kids, if you take them each time, you got some really good athletes, you got some that aren't so good, and then you've got all those guys in the middle. All right? Now, I had a guy tell me one time, good coaching is taking all that group in the middle and pushing them to the front where they're closer to the good athletes. But here's what I would tell you about teaching, and this is just my own thoughts, not any book, and it's probably not documented. As a teacher, when you walk into the classroom, that group way down there on the right, you see that's 2.13%. That's like 2 standard deviations from the mean, which doesn't mean anything to any of you except for the fact that it's further from the middle, okay? And that 2.13% at the other end, you're not going to have any impact on them. There are kids in your classroom that are going to learn despite what you do. It doesn't make any difference what you do. They're going to learn it. There'll be kids in your classroom that it doesn't make any difference what you do. They're not going to learn it. Okay? It ain't going to happen for them. They've made that decision when they came that day, all right? But they may not have the skill set to do what they need to do either. But if you look right here in the middle, if you look where the 68.26% is, that's over 2/3 of the number of folks, by the way. They're in the middle. They're the ones you're going to impact. They're the ones that you're going to make a difference on. That's 2/3 of the group that you've got a chance to push forward. And if you don't do anything, as we all know as coaches, they go backwards. I do not know and would not pretend, and we have this discussion in our office all the time, how anybody pulled it off last year. I have no idea. To me, this is the most difficult time in the last 40 years to be in a classroom. The COVID, nothing like it. Nothing like it at all. And unfortunately, it looks like it wants to come back for another round. And we're going to get to do some stuff again. Don't know what that is yet. Don't know what that looks like. How you did it in your classroom. My son-in-law is an assistant principal. He spent the entire first semester on social distancing and on contact tracing. That's all he did. He got up every day, looked at the list, and started chasing kids down and seeing how far they were sitting apart. And that's what he did for an entire semester. And then he got to make what he called golden phone calls, which was he called the house and said, I'm sorry, we're sending your child home because they sat next to somebody who is sick or could be sick. I don't know what you did. The other thing is this is the age of diversity. And I think there's two things to me anyway. The one is that there's a difference between having diverse groups and having things that divide us. To me, that's two separate issues. And I think that line's been blurred. And I think it's been blurred not only across our country, across our state, but it's been blurred in our schools too. How you deal with that and what you do with that, I don't know how you do that. There hasn't been any racial or social unrest like this since the 60s. I was born late in the 50s. I was in junior high in the year of 1968, which supposedly is the most socially unrestful year. Maybe you history guys can comment about that, but that was the time of the Vietnam War was going on. That's the time we had we were coming out of racial unrest from early in the 60s. It was just a difficult time. The next one, you guys live in a time that I don't know that I could have even fathomed. I was born in the time of the second chance, that everybody got another opportunity. But we don't think that way now. If you screw up, your ass is gone. 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 And we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to go through any details. We just once you know, you mess up, you're gone. I read an article the other day. I was reading a history book on the United States Navy, and 4 admirals that had tremendous impact on World War II. 3 of them now, if they were in the Navy right now, wouldn't have got past being a junior officer because they screwed up. But somebody gave them a second chance. Now, I realize there are some things that you can do. You don't get any second chances. I get that. One of them is if you ever touch my granddaughter, you don't get another chance. I come and eliminate you. You're done. It's over. You're gone. But there's a lot of stuff that we're overreacting, in my opinion. But that's the times we live in. And then the other thing, which of every coach that comes into coaching now, a young person understands how these things work because they've been raised on this, but they don't seem to understand that everybody's got one. And that everything that they do, somebody is recording, taping, or sending it to other folks. Are you kidding me? I mean, we have some of our staff here today. I apologize, I should have introduced David Glover, who is one of our directors, Grant Gower, one of our directors, Todd Goolsby, one of our directors. That's the first question we ask every time when a problem comes up. Anybody got video? Well, sure they do. Just wait a couple of days. It'll show up on the internet. We'll get it. It's out there. But there's a mindset that goes with that you need to understand that everything you're doing is being recorded. And to me, this is the most important part for young coaches, which I will tell you as a young coach myself, I did very poorly with this, okay? Because I was a coach because I wanted to be up there for the games. I wanted to coach kids. I wanted to keep playing football. I wanted to keep playing baseball. I wanted to keep doing those kind of things. And I thought coaching was the way to do it. Until I realized that these people they were sending to me are somebody's kids. And then when I became a parent, my son-in-law, who I think is one outstanding person, was one of my assistant coaches at one time. And he came to our staff. I was coaching football, and he came to our staff, coached with us a few years, got out of the coaching business, went and did something else, came back to a different school in the same district. And I walk into a restaurant one night, and I look, and I see him sitting over there. I get ready to go over and talk to him. He's on a date with my daughter. Awkward. It was for a second. And then about 13 months later, he drives up where I work now, and he gets out of his car, and he comes into the office and buzzes down if he can meet with me for a second. And all you guys that are dads know where this is going. So he says, I've come to ask you if I could marry your child. Well, I hired you to be one of my assistants. Isn't that a qualifier? Do we have to do any of that other stuff? Because I will tell you, and I was being facetious with him, because we did take 2.5 more hours to see if he was worthy or not, but are you treating it that way? I mean, the health and safety and well-being of a child has been handed to you. You have been given that. You know, I got a card one time from a parent of a player, and she had started it off with, I want you to know I never worry that I send my child to be with you. Whoa. Man, to me, he was a third-team guard. I mean, you know, no big deal. I never worry when I send my child to be with you. Is there any higher compliment you could give someone? Here, take my 16-year-old. Take them. 3.5 hours, they're yours. Oh, more than that? Go ahead. Coach says we need to do it. That's fine. Coach said that. You know, I told the group yesterday, and John Odell, who's the FCA leader in our state, he said the most powerful quote to him from Billy Graham. Now, I'm Baptist, so when you say Billy Graham, I start paying attention, okay? The most powerful quote Billy Graham ever gave was a 2-word quote. Coach said. The 2 most powerful words he said in the English language. Coach said. And think about that responsibility. You realize that every time you start a practice or a class, 20, 30, 40 parents, 20, 30, 40 families have handed you their child? And you're in charge of their safety and their well-being. That's somebody's daughter, somebody's son, that could be somebody's brother. And here's the other thing. It don't make any difference how you feel that day. Well, you know, the dog didn't do what I wanted him to do when I left, and I had to take the trash out, or my commute. You just wouldn't believe my commute. You don't know how tough that is to get all the way. Really? I don't care. I sent you my kid. It doesn't make any difference how you feel. It doesn't make any difference how your day is going. And here's the other thing. This one shocks me when I think about what I've done and what I did, especially early on coaching. It doesn't make any difference what the kid has done previously. It makes no difference what the child has done previously. You're supposed to treat them all like they just arrived from heaven. Because a lot of them did. And at least in mom and dad's eyes, a lot of them still do. That's the kind of responsibility we're talking about. You're the person that's responsible. All right, these are my 2 shapers. These are the 2 that are the most responsible for what you're seeing here today. The guy on the right's a Marine. The lady on the left's an elementary teacher. That's a heck of a combination to be raised by, let me tell you. Dad thought we should yell and scream at everybody. Mom wanted to hug them. But here's the part, and I have never felt bad or embarrassed or put off by ever telling anybody about my parents and who they are. I'm very proud to be their son. But what I don't think I realized enough as a coach and as a teacher, and what I'm trying to do better now in my role as an administrator, is that these 2 people shaped me. They're largely responsible for how I am and what I think about. But when I deal with other people each day, do I consider who shaped them? Have you thought about that? I mean, you know these things because I've heard some of you talk, because I know some of you have been in the coaching business a lot longer than I have or was. But the kind of things you say to one another is this. Well, okay, that's so-and-so, but now do you know what kind of family that guy comes from? You know what his background is? Because what we did traditionally on our staff was we were amazed when children were able to come and do things and they had no parental support. They had no family unit. Nobody was helping them do what they were doing. So did that not impact how you treated that kid? But have you thought about what shaped them to get there? Or how other kids were shaped by their situation? This is a statement that we have, or this is a statement that bothers me tremendously. Anytime you reference that a child behaves a certain way because, well, you know, they were adopted. What are they, broken? You can't, that's an unfixable thing? Or that's something that puts them in an entirely different category where now they get in it. Know who your shapers are. Know how you got where you are. But spend a little time and figure out who's shaping those kids you're trying to coach and teach. Because I'll promise you, that changes your outlook on how you approach them. And if you know what they're going through, one of the worst things I ever did, totally worst things as a coach, had a young man whose mom passed away. And so here I am, I want to be, Johnny empathetic coach. So I go to him, I said, Lee, I said, man, you just take care of yourself here now. You don't want to come to practice. You don't want to be bothered by that. You got whatever you need to do. You're good. Hey, you show up on Friday, we'll give you your jersey. We'll go play. He looked at me like I was a Martian. I said, Coach, I got to come to practice. I said, no, you don't understand. I'm the three missing the practices, that doesn't apply to you right now. He goes, Coach, that's the only place in my life where anything's normal. That's the only place in my life where things are still the same as they were. My mom's gone. I go to the house. She ain't there. Please, let me go to practice. I thought, stupid coach. Stupid coach. Know who your shapers are, who shaped you, and know those ones. Okay, to me, we are struggling in our state and our country, I think, about the value of education-based activities, which is what we're involved in, as opposed to activities that aren't education-based. And the club sports, the non-school activities, all those things. I would tell you that's the reason you're here. You're here to teach those other things. Yeah, the game and all that's the vehicle that you're using to get them there. But it's the teaching of the other things that make what you do valuable. And that's what, I don't know how many times, and this, again, this is one of those old coach things, so bear with me. The greatest reward I ever got in coaching, the greatest reward, and I'm getting them now more than ever, is not winning some game. Not having a ring or a championship. It's not that. The biggest rewards I'm getting now are those people that I run into that I coached, and the guy comes up to me and says, Coach, you don't know what I'm doing now. You know where I'm at now? You know what I'm able to do? And I go, no, I don't know. And he tells me, and he said, Coach, some of that stuff you taught me. I said, I've never been involved in that. He said, but you taught me how to work. You taught me how to get up and go on. You taught me those, and the payback is unbelievable. Young coaches won't see that. Don't see that. We were talking about finances yesterday. You get a young coach and you want to talk about insurance and retirement, they're going to think you're talking Chinese or Russian. They don't hear that. They don't want to hear that. Retirement, that's for older people. That's old people that do that. Old person here. You're going to eventually make a plan now. Have a plan. What you need to be talking to young coaches about is debt. That's the word you need to use to get a young coach's attention. Debt. How much debt do you have, and what's your plan to get rid of it? Don't have a plan to get rid of it, have a plan to increase it. No, you need to have a plan to get rid of it. So, to have a plan to teach the other things. You're going to be challenged, you are challenged, and many of you that are coaching know that. You get challenged all the time about, well, why is that important? Why is that a rule? And you guys that are administrators, this one. Where does it say that? Where does it say we got to do that? Where does it say that, if I don't come to 3 practices, or I don't do this, or I do that? Where does it say that? You got to have something you can fall back on. And it would be best if that thing is written down, and it would be best if that thing's agreed upon by you and your staff and school administration. Because now you're all on the same page when these issues happen. And I was first started coaching, I had my rule. These are my rules. You come to 3 practices, you miss 2 practices, you do this, you run so much, you do this, you run so much, you do this, we kick you off. That's really good, except when my elementary teacher mom told me one time, when I was explaining to her, I said, Mom, so-and-so kid on my team did this, and we kicked him off. And the elementary teacher said, "Oh, that's great. I'm so proud of you. Now you can be a real impact on him." I said, "No, Mom, we kicked him off the team." And she said, "Exactly. Why did those people send their kid up there? Send him up there so that you could have an impact on him. And you separated yourself from that? Well, if this is like the 15th chance, okay, maybe that's what you need to do." So I would suggest to you, you got some kind of written document that says what it is, who you are, and what you're about. All right, this is an old one that I stole, and I'm the biggest plagiarizer of any coach you've ever seen. I stole things from any sport at any time. And I've never told Mr. Glover this because he's a huge Dan Hayes fan, and I never have said this to him. I refereed basketball for a long time. Refereed basketball at Oklahoma Christian College where Dan Hayes was coaching. I relished the opportunity to go to OCC because I stole things off of Dan Hayes' desk between games when the girls were going in and the boys were going out. Dan Hayes had always had great stuff on his desk. Great things to read, great things to remind yourself about, great things to hang your hat on. That's what this is. This is a plagiaristic attempt at John Wooden's pyramid of success. Okay, John Wooden being the UCLA basketball coach. What we did and what we came up with, and I stole this from my predecessor, a guy named Chris Stiles at Westmore, is we made what we called the success pyramid. And we put together some values, some things that we thought were important. Now, we agreed as a staff, and we talked to our kids about the values at the very bottom, the ones you see in blue there, the level 1, okay? Those were foundation core principles that we talked to our kids about every year. Every opportunity we had what we called pyramid talks, at scheduled part of a practice once a week or twice a week during the preseason. A coach would be assigned a pyramid talk, and he was supposed to talk about one of these values. The ones you see in blue never changed. All the other ones we changed and went with whatever our kids seemed like they needed. The ones you see in black right there are the ones that got changed from 2008 to 2009. There were 3 words that were on there before that, but now we thought we needed to be more aggressive. We thought we need to have some talks about priorities and what they were about, and we talked about passion of the game. So having something. Now, so when I was involved in the discipline part as the coach then, what I would talk to kids about is what you have done violates this. What you did violated 3 of these blocks. We called them blocks. The reason they called them blocks, they were painted on the side of our locker room, and they were concrete blocks, and each one of them had a word on it, so it looked like that. So we talked about violating the blocks. So you didn't come to practice? What did you violate? Being responsible. Okay, we can't do that. I changed my title from head football coach to keeper of the pyramid. My responsibility to you is to keep the pyramid intact. And I will do everything that you do, everything that we do as a staff, everything you do as a teammate. We hold up against the pyramid. Okay. So having those things written down, and obviously we published them, gave them to the parents, told them all those. School administration bought into it, all that kind of. We're all on the same page as far as what we were teaching. I still have kids come and talk to me about pyramid talks, about what we talked about, how they hang their hat on some of those things. I would suggest to you, and believe me, this is just one attempt, and it can go 1,000 different ways, but there's got to be some stuff that's kind of consistent. Regardless of what delivery system you choose, I would beg you, I would implore you, I would do everything short of getting on my knees and sobbing at your feet. I don't care what you determine to be your values. Please cover these 3 somewhere. Life ain't fair. It wasn't designed to be fair. It's not going to be fair. And if the first thing you're telling your kids is the reason we're doing this is because it's not fair, then you have just set them back. Because every day when they get up, they're going to find lots of things in life that ain't fair. I don't know how many times, and you guys that do the administrative thing, you hear this from parents all the time. Well, that's just not fair. That's just not fair. You can't do that to my kid. That's not being fair. Well, I'm sorry. There's times when life ain't fair. The sooner you accept that, the easier the rest of the life is going to be. The second one is, hey, bud, you're accountable for what you do. And you also get the consequences that go with that action. So when you step up, my grandfather had a special term for this. He called this the code of the West. You pull the gun, you shoot it, you're responsible for the bullet. I said, but Pops, he's the one that's, you pull the gun, you shoot it, you're responsible for the bullet. Well, Pops, you're not hearing me. This guy, you pulled the gun, you shoot it, you're responsible for the bullet. You're accountable for your actions. And again, you guys that do the administrative thing, I don't know how many times I spend hours upon hours explaining to people that when I first became an assistant principal, my mentor said this, please understand that you're in charge of not what Johnny did to get him into the office. You're in charge of what you're doing to Johnny about what Johnny did. That's what the mom and dad are going to want. That's what Uncle Bob's going to want to talk to you about. What are you doing to my kid? What are you doing? Well, I'm trying to hold him accountable. There is accountability for actions, and you own that action and the consequences that come with it. And then the last one, which is the biggest one, I think. Adversity is going to come. Life isn't fair. Things are going to happen that aren't good. But we're not measured by that. We're measured by how we responded to it. The Lincoln quote, I'm not concerned that you have fallen, I am concerned that you arise. So whatever you've decided to be your core values, whatever you've decided you're going to use in your classroom and you're going to use on the field, in the court, or whatever, work these three in there. Work these three in there, because if we don't do that, then we're doing a disservice to the next generation. If we've led them to believe that life is supposed to be perfectly balanced, if we've led them to believe that there are situations where you can justify doing something you know is not right based on something that has happened to you, that's not right. And then if we think we can get away from adversity, we're sadly mistaken. Because, and I'm a Navy guy, so I had to work a Navy ship thing into this. That's a gun off a Navy ship. Sorry, but that's me. Because you're the last line of defense. See, my daughter is a teacher, was a teacher, kind of is a teacher, however you want to say that. She's worried about her smart board, her books, that she has for her kids. She's worried about, all the technology stuff, which is good. I get that. I totally get that. But I don't care what kind of technology you got. I don't care what kind of smart board you got. I don't even care what kind of book you got. Because that's not the most important thing that's in that room. That's not the most important thing that's on the field. Football coaches were tremendous collectors of gadgets. You got to have a 7-man blocking sled. You got to have a 5-man blocking sled. You got to have a 3-man blocking sled. You got to have these bags to skip over. You got to have these bags to run around. You got to have these bags to hit. You got to have a football attached on a stick so you can practice coming off the line of scrimmage and the coach doesn't have to bend over. It doesn't make any difference. The most important gadget, the most important item, the thing that determines whether today we have education or we get coached up is you. It's you. When those kids walk in that classroom each day, you're the person that determines whether education will take place or not. Now, they're the person that decides maybe not today, because you've got those that come in and you ain't teaching them no matter what. You ain't. That's good. That was really good. They have a role, and we used to call it the Teeter-Totter Rule. You can't teeter-totter by yourself. If we're going to do education today, I got to do something and you got to do something. But the responsibility is mine. How many coaches have you heard say over the course of your lifetime, when we go to practice today, we do one of two things. We either get better or we get worse, because there's nothing in between. Who's responsible for that? You. You are the one that's responsible for that. And each day when you walk in there, understand you're the determining factor. You're the one that makes the difference. You're the last line of defense. You're the only person that can have that impact. You're the impact player. You are. Now, We didn't talk very much today about some of those core things as far as what we were talking to younger coaches about. I've got a handout over here that has a whole bunch of resources on finance and family and faith, and it's got a bunch of things here on physical and mental health and classroom management and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to leave them over here. If you want to come and do that, here's the deal. You can Google it up as easy as I did. You want to look for stuff, the internet's a tremendous resource for a lot of things. So look for things that help get better. All right, last thing, I appreciate what you do. You're it. You're the warriors to me. I had a friend in the Marine Corps. He always talked about grunts, and if you haven't been in the Marine Corps, you don't understand what a grunt is. But a grunt's a guy in the trench, up near the very tip of the spear of the battle, and he doesn't care about big political things, and he doesn't care about the philosophy. He cares about making it through the next day and being alive and getting back to his family. That's what he cares about. I appreciate you guys because to me, you're the grunts. You're out there fighting the battle every day, every stinking day. And I would tell you, our kids in our state deserve that. And that's why you're here. You accepted the challenge. Thanks. Appreciate you being here.